Before we get into these awards, let's take a look back and recap gaming in 2020. 2020 was a great year. For video games, at least. Right off the bat at the start of the year, we got Animal Crossing New Horizons, a game that would have been a lot better if Nintendo didn't try to force a bunch of Nintendo bullshit into it. Doom Eternal, which is pretty much the best FPS game I've ever played. Ori and the Will of the Wisps took Ori and the Blind Forest and just overhauled every aspect of it, even if a lot of the game is pretty much just ripped mechanics from Hollow Knight. Freaking Half-Life 3 came out. Kinda. Shortly after that explosion of game releases, The Last of Us Part 2 came out. It was pretty alright. Everyone seemed to hate this game with a burning passion, but I honestly thought it was fine. Not as good as the first game for sure, but it polished the gameplay from the first game. The environments and graphics overall are probably the most well-made of this generation, and the actors in this game gave excellent performances that gave the game those moments that really stick with you. Even if the story wasn't quite on the level of The Last of Us 1, still definitely was not worth the crunch the developers had to go through. Fall Guys came out of nowhere and instantly became a hit. That was forgotten a few weeks later once everybody started playing Among Us, which is basically TTT and Gmod without random deathmatches. Genshin Impact is an anime waifu gacha game that doesn't blow total ass.
No, you got to do the jump.
I can't play this, I'm not old enough.
Bleeding Edge is pretty much the new Lawbreakers, and if you don't know what Bleeding Edge is, then that further proves why it's the new Lawbreakers. Post Void is one of the more fun seizures that I've had. Ghost of Tsushima was pretty much Assassin's Creed Samurai. Ikenfell was a pretty good RPG about a bunch of gay wizards. Light Matter was a fun little Portal-inspired indie game. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is one of the first VR games that feels like a full single-player experience, even if the story was pretty generic and the gunplay is a bit hit or miss. The melee combat and the inventory management were the perfect fit for VR. Also, Cyberpunk came out after 7 years of waiting. Man, all that crunch the developers were put through really paid off, huh? I didn't have enough time to play every single game that came out in 2020, so if you don't see any of these games get any awards, that's probably why. But now let's go ahead and see which game earned 10th best of 2020. Superhot Mind Control Delete is basically just Superhot but a roguelike. You go through levels that consist of randomly assorted rooms, and as you go through the rooms, you get to choose power-ups. Just like in the original, you can do some crazy shite in this game that always feels really good to pull off. But in Mind Control Delete, there are new enemies like these guys that explode when they die and bosses that just can't die. It adds a lot to the Superhot formula that works flawlessly to provide that awesome action movie feeling. Also, this isn't really related to the game, but while I was playing through Mind Control Delete last year, I went on a kayaking trip with some friends and my sunscreen was like, not working. So I was only able to get a tiny bit of sunscreen, like, on my face, pretty much. And my legs, they were just exposed to the rays of the sun. And, well, here's what they looked like after that kayaking trip. Yeah, they were freaking nasty as hell. They were red and freaking inflated. I just thought it was kind of funny how, as I was playing Superhot, my legs were super hot. That was kind of funny, I thought. That's why I'm including it in the video. It was kind of funny. Wowee! Those are some nasty ass feet. Anyways, let's give an award to something. The award for Most Innovative Game of 2020 goes to BPM bullets per minute is part 90s style FPS, part rhythm game, which might seem a bit strange at first, but holy shite! The two genres complement each other surprisingly well. You can only shoot and reload on the beat to the music, which will feel really strange at first, but once you get a feel for the music, getting into a good rhythm, maneuvering around enemies, and pulling off kills all while you're in sync to the music feels real nice. I would recommend binding reload to right click to make reloading easier to time while you still have all your left fingers free to move around and dodge. Also, you might want to turn down the saturation. A lot of the weapons and items could use a little bit of balancing. Some weapons are basically completely useless, and others basically win you the game. Like, look at this shit. BPM also has a pretty freaking bangin' soundtrack. Now on to the 9th best game of 2020, which is Mirror's Edge. Was a game that came out back in the late 2000s, and since then I haven't really seen many first-person platformer parkour games like it, which is kind of a shame because I really enjoyed how the movement felt. And it's Ghost Runner. I'm doing a transition to Ghost Runner. Like Mirror's Edge, Ghost Runner has heavy emphasis on parkour and platforming, except you also get a ninja blade.
It's called a katana, dumbass!
The combat in this game complements the movement really well. You'll be jumping and Okay. Dasking? Really? I'll be dasking? Jumping... What? Hang on. You'll be jumping and dasking and grappling. You'll be jumping and dashing and grappling and sliding all over the place, dodging bullets and lasers and entire freaking dudes that just launch themselves at you. And the upgrade system is like Tetris. Ghost Runner's biggest weakness, however, is its bosses, which suck total ass. They're basically 3-minute QuickTime events, and if you make one mistake, you have to restart the entire fight. This fight is basically short QTE, run over to the boss, longer QTE, run to the boss, longer QTE, run over to the boss, longer QTE, and the fight's over. Besides the bosses though, this game is really good. Wowee, that Ghost Runner sure does look like a pretty decent game, huh? But what about expansions for games? Or just extra content in general? The next award goes to the best downloadable content that was released in 2020. Okay, I know the Ancient Gods Part 1 came out this year, and I just want to say that's honestly a terrific DLC that deserves credit, but like, Steve. Steve was my most wanted character for Smash for a long time, and if you take a look at my reaction to Sephiroth being added...
What's that?
What is it?
Whoa! Whoa! Is that? No! What? No! It's him! What?
Keep in mind, I've never even played Final Fantasy, so you can imagine how crazy I went when I saw the trailer for Steve.
Alright, let's see what we got here. Oh snap! Minecraft! That! No!
But Steve's not just the best DLC this year because of my personal bias towards him. There was an insane amount of work that went into his inclusion in Smash. An entire new character being added to Smash Bros is a lot of work on its own, but with Steve, every single stage had to be reworked to make his building and his mining mechanic function properly. Do you know how many stages there are in this game? On top of all that, he's just a really fun and unique fighter. Smash Bros is supposed to be a celebration of gaming history, and you can't celebrate the history of video games without Steve. Well, I would say it's about time we see what game won 8th best of the year. Let's take a look. I'm honestly not a huge fan of open world games simply because of the stale-ass formula they've adopted in recent years. I mean, just look at pretty much any Ubisoft game and you'll see big maps filled to the brim with landmarks, quests, and hundreds of hours of unlockables to, well, unlock. But it all feels like busy work and rarely does much to immerse the player into the world of whatever game they're playing. Anyways, that's just my personal issue with open world games. But honestly, Ghost of Tsushima is still pretty dang good. The ending especially is amazing. Definitely one of the best endings I've seen to a game in a while. And while Ghost of Tsushima doesn't really do much to innovate on the open world gameplay, it is super polished and I enjoyed it a lot. The gameplay is pretty basic third-person open-world stealth game shiz, but swapping between the different stances, using different stances against different types of enemies to become more efficient in your combat, it really gave the combat a lot more depth. It's just a shame it takes so long to unlock them all because that made it take a while for the combat to really get anywhere interesting. For a big chunk of the first part of the game, you'll be playing with like only 2 different stances and it gets a bit repetitive. Ghost of Tsushima has really impressive visuals. Like, a lot of games have photo modes, but I've never really used them up until playing Ghost of Tsushima. And like, damn dude, the environments in this game are freaking the graphics in general look amazing, even on a base PS4. If you like open world games, Ghost of Tsushima is a must play. I think it's really important that we recognize a certain video game company who put in a lot of work this year to ensure the integrity of their intellectual properties. The Big House is a competitive Smash Bros. Tournament for Super Smash Bros. Melee. With the rise of a deadly pandemic early 2020, the Big House sought after a way to host a tournament online so that they could avoid a large gathering of people. Because, you know, virus. But Nintendo, being Nintendo, of course shuts it down, issuing them a cease and desist, because they were going to use Slippy to host their online matches. Slippy is a software that emulates Smash Bros. Melee and allows people to play the game online. And it is technically legal for Nintendo to do this, but like, why would they? They're losing no money from the community hosting a tournament. Nintendo is sitting on the opportunity to capitalize on the competitive Smash scene, and instead of taking that opportunity, they're just shit-stomping their fans that love the game. But it's not just the Smash fans who got ass-blasted by Nintendo last year. Mario 3D All-Stars was finally released after Mario fans had been waiting for a way to play the classic 3D Mario games on new hardware for years. And I mean, they're here. Except for Galaxy 2 for some reason. 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy 1 are all on the Switch, and I mean, it's cool to have them on the Switch and all, even if the collection does feel a little bit lazy compared to other game compilations. But the collection itself isn't what I have a problem with. This is what I have a problem with.
Super Mario 3D All-Stars will launch on September 18th. A limited run retail edition and a digital edition of the game will be available for a limited time until the end of March 2021.
What? Why? Why? It makes no sense! Why would you even do this?
Like, I could understand them doing a limited run of the physical copy, but
why are they doing a limited run of the digital? Are they gonna run out of the digital copies?
And just when we thought it couldn't get worse, Nintendo puts a stop to the production of the Joy-Con Boys' Edicons, which were Joy-Con shells designed in honor of Etika, a streamer who took his own life in 2019. All the money made from the shells would have gone to NAMI, a charity for mental health, which was fitting considering how Etika died. But apparently Nintendo doesn't give a shit about Etika or NAMI, because they shut that shit down hard. Nintendo has been making stupid decisions for years now, but it's usually a result of their stupidity. It's getting to the point where Nintendo isn't just stupid, they're malicious. Nintendo creates some amazing video games. I just don't understand why Nintendo constantly attacks their own fans who just want to show their appreciation for the games Nintendo creates, and the communities those games have created. Now that that's out of the way, let's see the 7th best game of the year. Ori and the Blind Forest was a freaking phenomenal game. It had great artwork, amazing animation, top-notch platforming, and that soundtrack, my guy, holy shit. But now we got Will of the Wisps, and it's got even greater artwork, even amazinger animation, even top-notchier platforming, and even the combat in Will of the Wisps is unbelievably fluid. And my dude, again, the soundtrack. It's just like... Everything in this world is just so nice to look at and explore. The attacks you unlock are fun to experiment with, using the shards that affect your different attacks and abilities, offering a variety of ways to approach enemies. The story wasn't quite up to the same level as everything else, but it honestly didn't need to be. The artwork, animation, and music all do an excellent job at making the player feel emotionally connected to what's going on. Wowee! That Ori and the Will of the Wisps sure had some pretty good animation and visual style. That's why it also wins the award for Best Visual Style. Now it's time to give the award for the funniest game of 2020.
I think the funniest game of 2020 was probably Jackbox because I made a funny character in it, and that was kind of funny. Yeah, it's Jackbox. I liked that one. It was funny. I liked it.
It's lemonade, it's not piss. I don't drink piss. I'm not a piss guzzler, as they might say. The sixth best game of 2020 is... You know, nothing lasts forever. One day you're gonna have to say goodbye to everyone you care about, and that's just part of life. And this is the main focus of Spiritfarer. Right off the bat, from the beginning of the game, you're told that you are going to become the new Spiritfarer, and it's your job to help spirits of those recently deceased to move on to the afterlife. You start out with a small boat, but it slowly expands as you add houses and other buildings for resource gathering onto it. The houses are where your spirits will live, and you need resources to upgrade the houses and get items or food for the spirits aboard your boat. Just cooking food on its own was honestly a pretty good time, combining different ingredients, finding new recipes, and trying to figure out what spirits enjoy which foods the best. It was fun. The progression of expanding your boat was nice as well, and the upkeep of resources gave it a bit of a Stardew Valley feel. A lot of the tasks you need to do for the spirits are basically just fetch quests, but as you complete more of them for your spirits, you grow to care about them more and more, which makes the moment when you have to help them pass on extremely impactful. I legitimately nearly cried a few times throughout this game. Really, the only problems I had with the game was that some of the spirits could have been more fleshed out. A couple of the last spirits you help I didn't really care for quite as much as the others I had helped. It also would have been great to see more interaction between the spirits, since they never really talked to or even about each other at all, really. It would have been really nice to see how some spirits get along with each other or talk about other spirits that have left. It would have served to make a spirit's departure more impactful, as well as the game itself. Also, the ending could have been handled better. I won't say anything other than that to avoid spoilers, but the ending is still great. And the soundtrack is amazing. It gives off the perfect tone for the world, and every song fits perfectly with the environment it's in. But the track that plays when you bring someone to the Everdoor to help them pass on is perfect. Spiritfarer was a really great game overall, but its music really stood out, which is why it also wins the award for Best Music of the Year. Next up is a game that people had been waiting for years. A few years back when VR sucked, I was like, damn, VR sucks. And it did suck, because pretty much all the games for VR were essentially tech demos, short crappy horror experiences, or I don't know what you're going for here, lady. I don't know. But a couple years ago, I tried out VR at a friend's house and saw that VR had made some serious progress since the mid-2010s. So I finally bought a HTC Vive, and yeah, VR is cool now. especially now that we got Half-Life freaking 3, my dude! Ah! Well, not really. It's actually a prequel to Half-Life 2, which is still really cool. You play as Alex Vance on a mission to save your dad, Ilan. Even if you're not a Half-Life fan, this game feels really nice to play. The reloading is smooth and satisfying. Picking up items by flicking your wrist never gets old. Actually, physically taking cover and leaning behind walls as you're outnumbered by soldiers is super immersive. And the weapons in this game are all the perfect combination for a VR game. There's only 3 in the entire game, but they each work really differently and can be upgraded as you go so that combat doesn't really ever get stale. Most of the objects in the world are interactive as well, making for an extremely immersive experience. And of course, the writing, characters, and voice acting are top notch. I mean, it's a Valve game, what did you expect? And seeing how Half-Life Alyx ended, I'm extremely curious to see how Valve handles the rest of the Half-Life series. You know, as long as people had been waiting on a new Half-Life game, I'm kinda surprised it didn't blow up a bit more, get a bit more attention. And you know, something else that deserved a little bit more attention this year was the Twitch channel hosted by none other than Chuck E. Cheese himself. That little pizza rat streamed quite a bit this year, and that's why the award for Best Streamer of 2020 goes to Chuck E. Cheese.
A powerful rat named Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Poggers!
There was a game, however, that got quite a bit of attention this year, and rightly so. The 4th best game of 2020 is... In Hades, you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades. Zagreus wants to see his mommy, and Hades is kind of a dick, so Hades is like, nah bitch, you ain't gonna escape hell. Zagreus of course doesn't accept this and sets out to escape the underworld. Every time Zagreus dies, he's sent back to the House of Hades, and trust me, you'll die a lot, because it's a roguelite, and that's kinda just how roguelites work. However, every time you die in Hades, you get a little bit of dialogue and story progression, so with every death, you get a chance to walk around the hub area, getting to know all the NPCs better, upgrading your weapons and abilities, and learning more about the truth behind Zagreus' parents and the Olympian gods. The game did kinda drag a bit in the later portion of the game, and the ending was slightly anticlimactic, but overall, still a decent story with amazing characters and writing. Speaking of writing, holy shite, how many freaking lines of dialogue were written for Hades? I swear, I only found repeat dialogue lines like 3 times ever in the 40-ish hours I put into the game, and that really helped to make the characters feel more fleshed out and real compared to some basic NPCs. But I haven't even talked about the major strengths of this game yet, those being the artwork and the gameplay. The artwork is freaking terrific. I mean, just look at this shite. Look at it. The gameplay is also amazing. You get to pick from a variety of weapons before you go into a run, and each weapon works different, which gives the game a lot of depth and replayability. As you go on a run through the underworld, you collect boons from the Olympian gods that increase your stats, give your attacks special effects, and generally help you to survive the increasingly difficult enemies. You can also pick up pomegranates that boost the potency of your boons, as well as hammers that adjust the way your weapon works. On top of all this shite, you'll eventually unlock the ability to add modifiers to your runs that increase the difficulty of each area. All this adds an insane level of depth to the game, and really every aspect of Hades is full of super high quality. Wowee, that Hades game sure does look pretty hot, pretty thick, pretty good, pretty hot, pretty thick. That Hades game, wowee. It looks pretty good, but you know, it wasn't the only game to achieve mainstream success this year. The award for most viral game of 2020 is for a game that blew up out of nowhere this year. And yeah, you already know it's Among Us, because of course it's Among Us.
Okay?
Yeah, that's about all I need to say about Among Us. There's been a lot of roguelites and roguelikes this year, but if you ask me, the best one is this next game. If it wasn't for Risk of Rain 2, this video probably would have been out like 3 weeks ago. But I just kept going back for one more run. Just one more run, and then I swear I'm done for the night. You start the run weak and slow, scavenging for items to make yourself stronger and faster. 20 minutes in and you get some decent items, you're killing everything relatively easy. 40 minutes in and you got a really nice build going, you're killing enemies like it's no problem at all. The teleporter bosses are pathetically easy, and about 2 hours into that same run, you're freaking flying all over the place, nothing can touch you.
You are the ultimate being. They are nothing but insignificant in the
And then you get one shot. and it's 2 AM. But one more run couldn't hurt. But yeah, the addicting gameplay loop combined with all the different survivor characters gives you a lot to experiment with in Risk of Rain 2. All of the survivors have really unique movesets. You got Loader, who is basically like if the Hulk had ODM gear from Attack on Titan, Mercenary, the melee weeaboo character who thrives on invincibility frames, Multi, the broken character, Huntress, a speedy glass cannon type survivor, and that's just to name a few of them. If you want even more customization for your runs, you can use artifacts, which are basically like skulls from Halo, to modify the game. Also, Huntress is kinda thick. Wowee, we're in the top 3 games now. We're really getting into the really big boys. So to contrast that, I think it's time to give the Who Gives a Shit award away.
Marvel's Avengers, live service, shitty microtransactions, boring ass gameplay, multiple currencies, gross UI.
A fucking battle pass? Are you serious? Jeez, no wonder this game's player base has plummeted so hard. This is almost worse than Anthem, holy shit. Wowee, that looks pretty shite. You know what's not shite though? The second best game of 2020, which is
Doom, baby! Yeah! Oh yeah, it's Doom! Doom is so good, dude! Oh my gosh! Holy shite, dude!
The variety of weapons complements the variety of enemies so freaking well. And I do need to correct a pretty significant part of the Doom review that I posted about 8 months ago. I said that Doom Eternal took away the freedom you had in Doom 2016 and kind of forced you into playing against specific demons in a certain way, but that was super dumb. Doom Eternal doesn't force you to take out weak points straight away, or to only kill a cacodemon with a grenade to the mouth. It shows you easy ways to take care of these threats early game, but encourages you to use various other methods as well. It's all a matter of using your arsenal efficiently. You've got the combat shotgun, heavy cannon, plasma rifle, super shotgun, rocket launcher, chain gun, ballista, BFG, crucible, frag grenade, ice bomb, flame belch, and blood punch to do different combos on different demons. If you really want, Doom can just be a mindless shooty game. You just gotta turn the difficulty down and go hog wild. But the game is really at its peak when you're weapon switching and jumping all over the place and using the meat hook to grapple onto enemies and fly over everything, all while dodging a million demons all over the place. It's all hectic as hell, but holy shite is it fun. I have an immense amount of respect for the devs over at id Software, especially the creative director Hugo Martin. He's such a smart guy when it comes to game development. Even just listening to an interview with him for like 10 minutes, you can tell this guy really knows what he's doing.
In addition to that, meat hook, dash, and every ability that we gave the player completely broke the game. Nothing could touch you. Like you could just meat hook around and dash, and the AI just looked slow. The truth is, when we showed it at QuakeCon, that was me playing. It was all a lie, basically. I was playing in a way that was like meant to make it look cool, and I was weapon switching and doing all these things, but the whole time I was, you know, I'm like, the game needs to make you play this way. Like even that Polygon footage where it's like, Polygon can't do. Yeah. The thing is, like, that's just a player playing the game. Like, if that footage doesn't look great, whose fault is that? Is that their fault or our fault? Like, how come that person was able to succeed playing that way? Like with one gun, missing 80% of the time, and the game should have killed that person, you know, to corral them into playing it the fun way. We tried to shore that up, to hold the player accountable, to not let them out of the fun zone. You know, the fun zone is managing resources, it's doing all these different things, it's thinking constantly, it's using the right tool for the job. And when they don't play that way, we kill them. Number one thing, this has to be fucking super fun.
Seriously, if you like action games at all, you need to play Doom Eternal. It goes on sale on Steam for like $30 whenever a big sale comes by, so if you haven't played Doom Eternal yet, you better freaking get it during the summer sale this year, okay? Okay? I swear, dude, if you don't buy it, I'm gonna freaking—
Whoa! Wowee! Now there's a
Freakin'
video game! Doom is so good that it also wins the award for Best Combat. You bitch! Yeah!
Oh, what happened? Wait. No. There can't be. There's another award? Oh, what award did you win? Oh wowee, that was strange. Well, without any further ado, it's time to announce the best game of 2020. Before 2020 even started, I knew that Doom Eternal would be my favorite game of the year. I loved Doom 2016, and Eternal looked like it would just be 2016 but better. And when I finally played Doom Eternal, it surpassed all my expectations, and I was certain that it would be the game of the year. Finally, it's December, and now there's no doubt in my mind that Doom Eternal will win Game of the Year. I mean, there's no other big game releases planned this late in the year, and even if there were, how the hell would they top Doom Eternal? Omori was a game I hadn't heard of until after it released, but like, holy shite, I am so glad I decided to play it before I started making this video. I'm not gonna get into the specifics of why I like this game exactly, because I really do think it's something you should experience completely blind on your first playthrough. The first thing you'll probably notice about Omori is the hand-drawn art style, and holy shit, man. I absolutely love this style. It suits the tone of the game perfectly, being fun and upbeat the majority of the time, and being dark and ominous when it needs to be. The combat is also great. It all revolves around an emotion mechanic, where you can inflict happiness, sadness, or anger on your team or enemies. Honestly, a lot of the lower tier enemies you can beat just by using basic attacks, but the stronger enemies, and the bosses especially, will require you to use the emotion system very strategically. And it's honestly really fun. Speaking of bosses, hot damn dude, the boss themes in this game are freaking crazy. The music throughout the game is absolutely top notch, especially that one song at the end. And if you've played Omori, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The ending, by the way, might honestly be my favorite ending to a game, like, ever. Which is a pretty bold claim, but trust me, the last few hours of Omori wrap everything up so well. And that last line of dialogue, dude. They could not have chosen a better way to end it. Unless you get the bad ending, which in that case... Close. Wowee, there it is, folks. Thanks for joining us. Have a great year. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go pick up a copy of Bug Snacks.
Walkie slush.